Hello and welcome to the NCBI Labs channel. Now recently on our live event we had an opportunity to have a look at Be My Eyes. It's a really useful app that is actually helping a lot of people with sight loss. As part of that piece, we spoke to the founder of Be My Eyes, Hans Jørgen Wiberg.
Just before we lost you, Hans, we were just saying that we played a quick overview of Be My Eyes and Joe actually using it, which I think was really. I think the thing, I don't know if you got to hear that, but the thing that really impressed me on that is just how simple it was for someone with sight loss to say, I need to know what the expiry date is, or I need to know like color or something like that. I have to say that simplicity in terms of the app, I think is huge, and it was very impressive.
Well, thank you. But it's also when we started to develop, we had all kinds of ideas what we could build into the app. But then we looked at the money and we looked at the how long time it would take and so on. And then we started to realize that maybe it would be a super good thing to make it as simple as possible. And so we narrowed it down to make it super easy to sign up. There's some necessary steps that you need to go through, but the interface is there is basically only two buttons that you need to know. And also because I know from my work in the Danish blind community that many of the blind people are like 60, 70, 80 years old, and they are not used to technology, but maybe their son or daughter brings them a smartphone and said, oh, I have, please try this out, and so on. So you need to kind of keep it super easy to use, and that's an advantage for everybody, that it is something that's easy to use. So
I'd imagine with an app that is so easy to use, Hans, you must have had quite a bit of feedback of the various ways that people use it, because when you've got a really nice, simple app, people can kind of apply that simplicity to many different kind of applications in everyday life. Do you have any kind of, have you heard any particularly interesting ways that people have used the app?
Well, there's a ton of different stories that we hear. People are super nice to write emails to me. One of my, you might have heard me say before, but one of my favorite stories is also describing what was kind of happening in these calls, because there was a lady from Washington in the US. She was about to sing in her choir, and she needed a pair of black shoes. And she was using Be My Eyes to make sure she had black shoes. But when the lady actually in Ireland picked up the call, she realized that she was singing in a choir. That was the lady in Ireland also. So they forgot all about the black shoes and started talking about what are you singing in your choir and so on.
Wow.
And the call ended up with the lady in Ireland who was actually with her choir at the time. So they were singing across the Atlantic to this lady in Washington. And it just kind of shows that it's important to have the right shoes on, but it turned out to be something more than that. But we also have a bunch of calls that are like 15 to 25 seconds. Like, have I set my oven to 200 degrees? Yes, you have. Thank you so much. And that's it. And you would never ask your neighbor over to kind of confirm that. But the sighted people, they go back all the time and see, did what I just did I really do that? And it's just a nice thing that you can, in a super easy way, that you can also kind of just be sure about something and not take the risk of.
That's a wonderful example. I mean, it's just that it's almost that life enabler, I'm a big believer that technology is a huge enabler for people with sight loss, and even though you're using technology for ask for help, it's in such a quick manner, such an enabling manner. It's a very, very impressive. I am curious though, if you look back on, I was reading the timeline on your website of the application, and so back in 2012, was it 2012 you had the original idea? I'm really curious. I mean, if you think back to 2012, like applications and smartphone applications were so in their infancy. I mean, I think, I wouldn't want to take for granted how revolutionary, to come up with a concept like this was back then. So I was just wondering where the inspiration came from, or where the thought process for you came from for Be My Eyes.
Well, in my work with my blind colleagues here in Denmark, I visit people in their home and talk to them, and a few of them back in 2012, they were using Skype to call friends and family, kind of to do the same thing. And I remember one of them said, but I always have to call someone. And that's where I came up with this idea that we should just make a group so we could kind of share each other's brothers and sisters. So I was thinking that cannot be that hard to do. Very optimistic, and I soon realized that it was not an easy thing to do, and also it wasn't that easy to find developers who knew about integrating video calling in such an app back in 2013 when we have raised the money. So it took quite a long time to find the right people to do it and so on. And also,
and did you build
out the concept? Yeah.
Did you build the application in Denmark? Did you use local technology teams?
Yeah, we hired some Danish engineers that was willing to kind of go into this field. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that in itself, I mean, something that we get a lot here in the NCBI in Ireland is people approach us with ideas for technology, and and say to us, and I have this great idea, but how do I turn it into a product? And that's a hugely powerful thing to do, because the idea. The idea is almost somewhat the easy part, and the building the technology can be an incredible challenge to overcome.
Yeah, that's saying that the idea is 1% and the rest is hard work.
Yeah.
I usually say that's where my team comes in. So, but it is absolutely true that you need to put a lot of effort and thinking and good people into making the whole thing a reality. Absolutely.
So. I'm actually kind of curious as well to dig. So from day-to-day support, I mean that's hugely powerful, and the examples Joe gave as well. But something that you and Joe both touched on was the specialist support, which is a big part of Be My Eyes now, and the support that you have available through partnerships with companies like was Microsoft. I think there was one other I might have missed that do specialized support. What was the other company? Just if you might remind me.
There's a Google.
Google.
And then there's Procter and Gamble. We have Procter and Gamble is a huge American company, and we have Clear Blue, and that is a pregnancy test. It's actually kind of also a funny story, because before Clear Blue came on board as a specialized health partner, we also had blind people using Be My Eyes to do the pregnancy test, and it's kind of because if you are a blind person and you don't want to ask someone in your surroundings about this, you just want to find out for yourself, maybe just for an hour or two, then you basically didn't have any other options than using Be My Eyes, because that's the only way where you can kind of call a anonymous random person, and you don't have to say who you are or anything. You can just show the the test, and they can say whether it's positive or negative. But now we have Clear Blue on board, and they can guide you through the whole process of taking the pregnancy test and all that. And we don't have that many calls, but it's I think that's some of the more important calls we have. So.
Well, you don't do it too many times in your lifetime, you know. So, but it is an incredibly important time in your lifetime, you know. And it's one of those life situations that I suppose I would never have occurred to me, you know, that you might need sighted support on it. But it's an incredibly private thing as well, you know. So that's an incredibly empowering tool.
Yeah,
I think
and
just
we
listening
got some
in.
really touching emails from the volunteers who said, "Oh, I just had this totally amazing call," and so, and that's how we found out that this was actually a need. So we could approach Procter & Gamble and Clear Blue and have them on board.
I think that actually just listening in, from the perspective of somebody who doesn't rely on the app myself, it's actually very enlightening just to hear all of the different applications for it, because because of its, as you mentioned before, its simplicity. It's so good to be able to actually see those different applications through many different kind of life events and things of various varying importance as well, because of again how easily usable it is. What do you think will be the future of Be My Eyes? Have you got other things in the development phase at the moment? Have you got other sort of features or other partnerships that you're working on at the moment?
Well, as it was just briefly mentioned that we partnered up with Global Citizen with this World Concert event, where we managed to have a live description. And we actually did three things that I think is super interesting. We had a professional, what do you call it? When you describe what's on the TV, it's called
voiceover, is it? Or narration?
Audio described version, and that is actually available online. If you want to hear the concert again and have it audio described, you can go into the Be My Eyes YouTube channel, and you can hear the whole thing audio described. But we also, and which I think was super interesting, we had a family who was live before the concert, who was describing the whole pre-show thing going on, and then during the show you could call in, and we had volunteers who were seeing the show, and they would kind of sit with you and see the show together with you, and because we have so many volunteers, I think we could do that, maybe scale that up. So that's something we hopefully will look into and see if we can kind of put into a system where you can always have someone. If you want to see something together with someone, you can kind of just make a Be My Eyes call and say, can we please see this together? It will not be a professional in any way, but it will be someone there for you. So you can say, okay, I would like to know about how the buildings are looking, or I would like to know what kind of clothes they have on, or are they skinny or not so skinny, or can you tell me what the hairstyle is, or something, whatever you exactly want to know about. I think that this is a super interesting thing that I hope that we can kind of go into, but I cannot promise you anything, but just something.
Really good. I think that's a really interesting development, and I think that would be quite an exciting development for a few people. And we have a lot of people listening in at the moment who are asking some questions here. Can we just hand over to JP for a moment? JP has been collating some of those questions for you, if you don't mind, Hans.
Yeah, great. Hi, Hans. Good to chat to you again. And thanks very much for the talk there. I always find it very interesting hearing about the great ways that Be My Eyes is being used. A few questions have come in, Hans, and the first one is actually more direct toward yourself. It says, does Hans ever use the Be My Eyes app himself?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
When I'm doing quite a lot of traveling, and when I'm about to leave a hotel room, I have left too many chargers and so on. So I use Be My Eye to check that I have gotten everything. And here, where I have a wonderful wife, she's mostly doing the shopping, but sometimes she forced me to go out and do some shopping, and then I sometimes use Be My Eye to locate things in the shop that I just can't find. I have tunnel vision, so I have 1 degree vision on one eye and a little more on the other eye. So it's super narrow. So I can kind of read the text on my phone, but it's difficult for me to find items in a shop and so on. So that's where it came in pretty handy. So,
Great. Second question is, if you are a person living in Ireland but cannot speak English, can you set it that, for example, volunteers who speak Russian answer your call?
Yes, you can use any language anywhere. It works the way that we always try to find someone in the same country. So if you are a Russian blind person in Ireland, then we will first try to find a Russian-speaking volunteer in Ireland. That might not be that easy. And if you can't find one, then we just find someone in another place in the world. But we'll always try to find someone in the same country. And the reason is that, many food ingredients might be kind of local, or the expiry dates might be put in certain places in certain countries, and it's just easier if you kind of know the same products and so on, and also if you watch the same thing on the television and so on. So that's why we try to find someone in the same country.
Well, that's fantastic. And there's one more question: is if I have the Be My Eyes app and I travel to a different country, will it still work?
Yes. If you travel to the US, then we will try to find someone in the US, but still speaking your language, of course. But it works exactly the same way.
Fantastic.
A little side note on that is that if you, as a volunteer, travel and to another time zone, and when you then get back, before we kind of realize that you have moved back to the time zone, we might call you in the middle of the night, because normally we only send notifications to our volunteers between 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock at night. So we don't disturb people at night, because if you as a blind person want help like 3 o'clock in the morning, we just notify someone in another time zone, and then of course it will not be someone from your own country, unless you live in Russia or something like that. We have many time zones.
Of course. It's great. Thanks, Hans. There's one kind of general point, I suppose. I heard you speak at a recent event, Hans, and one of the things that struck me, you were speaking to a group of about 15 or 20 people with vision impairment or who are blind, and some of them were actually saying that despite the fact that they had the application on their phones, they might have actually been a little bit reluctant to use it at times, thinking, oh, maybe I'll be disturbing someone. But am I right in thinking like this isn't actually the case? I mean, the volunteers want to be contacted.
The most emails I get is from volunteers disappointed about not getting enough calls. So don't ever hesitate. But also, I would say, don't just sit and make calls all day long, because the volunteers also expect that it is something maybe not super serious, but at least something relevant, and not only to talk or something like that. But it's perfectly fine, I would say, if you have, can you tell me what's in this bottle, and then you end up having a wonderful conversation. That's perfectly okay, but it should not be the purpose of the call. So just to make that clear.
Great. Thank you, Hans. They're all the questions for now. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very good. Thanks very much, JP. Appreciate those questions, and really appreciate the opportunity we have to talk to you as well, Hans. It's clearly an app that is making a tremendous impact on people's lives, and it's certainly something that we can see will will go on to have even further success as well. Karen, was there any other questions that you?
Yeah, I think just before we let Hans go, and I really appreciate your time today. I thought it'd be interesting to get to ask you two kind of general questions, Hans, if that's okay with you. The first one really is, as someone with sight loss, other than Be My Eyes, is there any technology that you find as a huge enabler to you in your day-to-day life?
I can tell you, like FaceTime and TeamViewer, I'm using every day because now that we are at home, we cannot go to our office. Then that is specifically one of my colleagues that I'm working together with, and I just turn on FaceTime at 9 o'clock every morning, and then we kind of have it going. And we help each other. And when I get stuck on my computer, then he can kind of take over and help me get it working and so on. And I think that's totally amazing that you can just ask someone to take over your computer and they can fix something, and then you are back in business. And the fact that you can kind of have a phone call running all day long is also without even thinking about the cost of it. Maybe I'm too old, so but
it's something we use as well.
When I was a child, you really had to ask your father if can I borrow the phone for 5 minutes, and now you can have it running all day if you want to.
Yeah, I remember that growing up as well. Well, and my final question is, and I think it's just an interesting perspective maybe for people. Obviously, you're based in Denmark, and I see Denmark have begun to ease the COVID-19 restrictions, and just wondering what is life like in Denmark at the moment for someone with sight loss, relating to COVID-19.
Well. Just about, we have been super lucky that we haven't had that many people who have died from it. It's still super serious. My nephew's my niece's husband has just yesterday been gotten the coronavirus. So it's still a super serious thing. And of course. We can see if you look at Spain and Italy, we can see that we had a quite significant raise in the calls in those two countries, the Be My Eyes calls. We have not seen that in Denmark, and I assume that's kind of because we have not been that hard hit by the virus. But it is, it's super serious, and we can also see, especially on the emails that we get, that people struggle, to especially do some shopping and find out what they what kind of email, not but mails they get, and so on. And more than usually, because they don't have a sighted assistant in the same way that they used to. And also, simply loneliness is an issue, absolutely. So there might be a little more calls than where you kind of call with an excuse to call. But that's perfectly fine, absolutely.
So let me just finish up by saying a huge thank you for coming on to the live event today. It's been incredible talking to you, and it's it's an incredible application that many of the community here in Ireland utilize. I think again, I don't know what else to finish on other than saying a huge thank you, Hans. It's been much appreciated.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that there'll be loads more people, if they haven't already downloaded the app and tried it out, they'll be wanting to try it out after hearing about this. So I'll just echo Karen's thanks there as well, Hans. We really appreciate you coming on to talk to us.
Thank you so much. And also, I just want to say that lately we have brought on some of the blind organizations in our what do you call it in England? The main
IP.
Yeah. They are on as and Galloway's as on as specialized help, so you can kind of call them directly there in a super easy way where you don't have to kind of look for the phone number and so on.
Yeah.
And we hope to bring many more organizations on board as specialized help customers.
Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting, and we can hopefully talk some more on that, because we're already we do offer technology support here, but it's not visual based support. And any way we can incorporate that and add additional support to service users here in Ireland or those with sight loss, we're absolutely open to. So,
but you don't really have to kind of do technical support. It could just be, can you tell me about what this organization and so on, and that's perfectly fine. But we are absolutely open to talk about that.
Yeah. Cool. And as I said, just to let you know, Hans, we'll publish this video to YouTube as we do each and every week, and I'll send you on the link to it in case you want to listen back afterwards. And the other thing as well is in the description we'll also reference the stay-at-home concert that you had audio described as well. So I think that would be useful for people to have a listen to.
Thank you so much. That would be wonderful. Absolutely.
So that was Hans Wiberg. Thanks again to Hans for talking to us about his app Be My Eyes. Now, if you want to check out more interviews and how-to videos and even discussion about current technology, just look for the NCBI channel and be sure to subscribe if you enjoy these videos. But for now, until next time, this is NCBI Labs.